want to certainly thank the Attorney General for reminding us of the fact that this government listens, works, and executes, Mr. Speaker. And the work of the members of the cabinet, the work of the members of the caucus who chair the most important boards in this country and work to advance the government's agenda in their own way, speaks for itself, Mr. Speaker. And I must hail the efforts of all of those who serve, because it is not easy. It is not easy to put yourself up for public service, and it is not easy to take the bullets and arrows as they come. But here's the truth, Mr. Speaker. As persons have said, we have witnessed political theater tonight. All 6 members of the opposition had their talking points, and we're here to try to throw slings and arrows at this government. But guess what, Mr. Speaker? They found themselves in disarray. Minister Hayward, Minister of Labor, pointed it out. MP Richardson, MP from constituency number 7, pointed it out. The leader, the Attorney General, pointed it out. And it's so funny, Mr. Speaker, because it is so transparent, the naked political posturing that was taking place. And I get it. I understand. It's fun, you sit around, you're like, yes, come to the House. We're not going to worry about the bills. We're not going to bring forward our legislation that we tabled a few weeks ago to much fanfare. We're not going to debate that. We're not going to do that. We're going to focus on trying to throw mud for motions to adjourn. Who's that helping, Mr. Speaker? Who is that helping? Let me just give you an example. Last year, just like the Minister of Labor did, if you allow me to quote from the reply to the budget, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Shadow Minister of Finance, said this, and I quote, "Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance has failed to deliver either one of these objectives in any kind of robust and detailed fashion. Instead, he's merely listed off a number of issues facing the country without any specific plan on how to meet those challenges. There is virtually no analysis or context other than COVID-19 of government's financial performance." End quote. And today, Mr. Speaker, he throws bouquets and flowers at the member for constituency number 21 after, in political theater last year, he wanted to savage a budget that the ratings agencies commended. Mr. Speaker, political theater. And as persons mentioned, Mr. Speaker, they have their little meetings over there at Nona's Kitchen, right around there. Good for them for keeping up with their friends and families, Brian. I'm not going to hate. And what do we see? Part of the Nona's Kitchen cabinet going off script. So while they heap praise today, their candidate, Vic Ball, is in the mouthpiece of the combined opposition, blasting the former Minister of Finance. They can't even be on the same page, Mr. Speaker, and there's only 6 of them. But guess what, Mr. Speaker? Not going to worry about that, because political theater will not deliver for the people of this country, Mr. Speaker. It will not. The team of the Progressive Labor Party is focused on delivering for the people of Bermuda. We will not be deterred. As I said, Mr. Speaker, whether we serve at this cabinet table, whether we chair boards in our community, or whether or not we are on the doorstep in our constituencies helping our people. And though the members of the opposition are paid to criticize, the government is paid to deliver. And that is exactly what we will continue to do. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to say that this is not something that the members on this side need to be reminded of, as it is something that ministers and MPs and members in the other place are committed to do day in and day out. And if there are members of this honorable House who sit on the other side of the aisle, who are unable to focus on the issues of the day, the issues that matter to the people of this country, I'll just remind them of some of the things of which we've done over the last few weeks, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about the coronavirus, moving beyond the pandemic, releasing of restrictions, changing our border policies, reducing fees, making things easier and better for our tourism industry and our local businesses, Mr. Speaker. That's what we are doing, Mr. Speaker. We're delivering on our agenda for housing, Mr. Speaker. We are delivering on that agenda. Last week, I visited Harmony Hall to view the progress of affordable housing being constructed to support Bermudian families and Bermuda's seniors, Mr. Speaker. And we will visit more sites around the island in the coming weeks. Because, Mr. Speaker, this government lives by its platform, executes its platform, and its budgets fund the promises of which we have laid out, Mr. Speaker. And that is what we will continue to do. Just this week, Mr. Speaker, here at the Cabinet Office, I was joined by the Honorable Minister of Transport. 10 new electric buses arrived on island, with 20 more soon to come. We heard the Minister of Transport give a ministerial statement earlier today, speaking about how these buses are better for our environment, better for our public, better for visitors, and will save taxpayers money. You know what the former government did, Mr. Speaker? They didn't buy new buses. They didn't invest in public services. But this government, through its budgets, funded these improvements because it is the right thing to do, and it is keeping in the promises that we made to the electorate, Mr. Speaker. We said that we were going to install solar on government buildings, including solar at Fort Langton bus station to power these buses, Mr. Speaker, and we are delivering on those promises. And guess what, Mr. Speaker? That means that Bermudians are working, Bermudians are being trained, we are delivering on the promises, and that, Mr. Speaker, is the work of a government. We heard the Minister of Education today outline the progress of which are being made in our schools. And I want to pay homage, Mr. Speaker, to our teachers and our workers, and also the Minister of Education for his tireless and devoted efforts. He, like me, has a child and children in the public education system, Mr. Speaker, and we are committed to ensuring that they have the best environment in which to learn, Mr. Speaker. That is what this government is focused on. We heard earlier today the Minister of Health speak about the health strategy, a roadmap to deliver the pledge, to deliver universal single-payer health care in Bermuda. I hear some people talking about the PLP's trade from its roots. No, we haven't, Mr. Speaker, because what was in our platforms way back when, Mr. Speaker, back when you were, a young MP for the PLP, Mr. Speaker, single-payer health care, Mr. Speaker, that's what we will deliver. So we're not going to be deterred, Mr. Speaker. We listened. We listened and produced a platform that came from our members of caucus, that came from our members of the party and the Central Committee, one that is focused on rebuilding Bermuda with Bermudians at heart. And no amount of fire from the combined opposition, Mr. Speaker, is going to deter us from that mission. None, Mr. Speaker. Yes, our economy is challenged, like many economies around the world after the pandemic. But next week, Mr. Speaker, when we deliver the Progressive Labor Party's government, we will see that there is progress that is being made, Mr. Speaker. That all the doomsday persons and naysayers will recognize that there is light at the end of this tunnel, Mr. Speaker. That we are repairing public finances despite the bad hand that we were dealt by the former government, Mr. Speaker. And when we talk about delivering for our youth, next week we will roll out the National Youth Policy Working Group. And as the Minister of Labor said earlier today, we are going to be delivering on the youth employment strategy, which is a part of our economic recovery plan, making sure that we capture and deliver for the youth of this country, Mr. Speaker. That is what this government is focused on. And so while the opposition would really wish for us to be deterred and distracted, try to mire us in silly scandal, that's not what we're focused on, Mr. Speaker. People ask me, say, oh, how do you do this? And what all these things are saying about you, Mr. Speaker. I don't read it. I wake up, I come to work, I go home, spend time with my family, they go to bed, and I go back to work. That is what the ministers of this government do, and that is what the members of this caucus do. We are working to deliver for the people of Bermuda. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to spend too much time on some of the noise that came here from the opposition earlier today. But here's what I can say, Mr. Speaker. If the extent of the plan that you have for the future of the country is to try to find another $100 million to spend on a boat race, then that tells you all you need to know about the vision that the other side has, Mr. Speaker. If the only thing you can boast about is spending $100 million for a boat race, but forget about gross errors, the turmoil caused with pathways for status, giving away an airport with a no-bid contract that is 16% guarantee rate of interest, which many people in this world would love to have, in this island would love to have, but no. Mr. Speaker, your mom's tax dollars, your family's tax dollars are going off to pay off that bad deal, Mr. Speaker. And the opposition has the temerity to talk about budgets? They want to talk about the former Minister of Finance? The hot potato that he had to handle at Morgan's Point? A project that was in default while the former government was up there filming election advertisements, Mr. Speaker? Really? And then they want to talk about budgets? Come on. Come better than that, Mr. Speaker. I've said it before, and I have said it again. They are the party of the past, and we, with our progressive plans for the future, are the party of the future. And when we talk about talking out of both sides of our mouths, I hear much hullabaloo about tourism, Mr. Speaker. Well, guess what? Here's what's funny. The former premier was talking about tourism, while his own SAGE commission said there should not be a minister of tourism and it should all be handled by the BTA. So which one is it? We have a capable board of the Bermuda Tourism Authority, led by the honorable member for constituency number 14, a capable leadership team, a capable staff, and a national tourism plan that represents the tourism policy for this government. And guess what, Mr. Speaker? The opposition was consulted in the construction of that plan. This is about execution, Mr. Speaker. So, and you want to talk a little bit about tourism, Mr. Speaker? Let me say this. The opposition does not support the reopening of the Fairmont Southampton Princess Hotel and the 700 jobs of which it will create, Mr. Speaker. And they criticize the former Minister of Finance's approach to government support for hotel development because we read it inside of last year's budget speech, Mr. Speaker, budget reply. And guess what, Mr. Speaker? They will criticize my approach as well. They are paid to criticize, Mr. Speaker. We are paid to deliver, and that is precisely what we will do, Mr. Speaker. And we will not stop at Fairmont Southampton. It is that simple, Mr. Speaker. So the noise delays may happen, but we will be guided by what promises we made to the people of this country. We are focused on delivering, and next week, Friday, Mr. Speaker, we will be here to deliver the Progressive Labor Party government budget. Not Curtis Dickinson's budget, not David Burt's budget, the Progressive Labor Party government's budget, which funds our priorities, Mr. Speaker, that delivers relief to people who need relief, Mr. Speaker, and that ensures that we can continue to provide and invest in our people to transform education, deliver on our promises for healthcare, introduce new industries, train our people, invest our people, Mr. Speaker. That's it. And with all the noise that the opposition can make today, guess what, Mr. Speaker? 2 weeks from now, they will need to reply to a PLP budget that funds those priorities, Mr. Speaker. We know the history. We know the story, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to investing in our people, making sure that the people of this country have the investments to build their skills, to re-enter the job market, and to make a living. That's what we do, Mr. Speaker. The former party, the former government, the opposition, they cut scholarships. This government increased scholarships. Mr. Speaker, the former government cut health care. This government funds health care. The former government got debt downgrades, Mr. Speaker, and this government got debt upgrades. That's the difference. And our record on financial management, while I was the Minister of Finance for 16 months, when the MP for constituency number 21 was Minister of Finance for 39 months, and now that I've returned, speaks for itself, Mr. Speaker. Because while we will hear the noise locally, independent observers with no axe to grind, no desire to see political noise for their own selfish purposes, speak independently and recognize the progress of which we have made under incredibly difficult circumstances, Mr. Speaker, thanks to no help from the other side, who left us with a whole lot of debt, airport guarantee and Morgan's Point guarantee. But we've persevered through that because we must. Because if we don't, the people who we serve will not get what they need. So, Mr. Speaker, as I close, we will not be distracted. MP Dickinson, I thank you for your service. I know how hard you work, and I know the incredible strain of which this job places on an individual and on your family. Thank you for your service. Next week, Mr. Speaker, when we are back here, we will deliver the Progressive Labor Party government's budget. That budget, Mr. Speaker, will set out the path for relief in this country and also for investment in our future. And I am proud to be able to deliver it on behalf of the 30 members of the, Mr. Speaker, 29 members of the Bermuda Progressive Labor Party caucus. With that, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to seeing you next week. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Premier.